Welcome back. President Trump says that he plans to unveil reciprocal trade tariffs next week in a major escalation of his trade war with U.S. economic partners. He made that announcement during a meeting, that is, with visiting Japanese Prime Minister. That happened on Friday. Now, this is after announcing a 30-day pause on imposing tariffs on Canada and Mexico. So what happens next? I want to bring in the host of the Charbonne Report, Michael Charbonne. Great to have you on. I love when you come in because you give us that Canadian perspective. Let's start with the big news, though, impacting Canada. We had the Canadian Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. He says, you know what? Trump is actually very serious about taking over Canada or annexing it. He's called it the 51st state. But now the Prime Minister is saying that's no joke.
Well, you know, John, unfortunately, President Trump's threats have fundamentally changed and reshaped Canada's economic trade policies when dealing with the United States. Canada now has initiated talks with new markets, new suppliers, anticipated supply chains, and is starting to look to more of a diversified global trade perspective. Canada's defense in their preparation is it's going to first of all be retroactive 25% tariffs against the states. There will probably be temporary shutdowns of your auto industry due to lack of parts. Canadian consumers are becoming very nationalized, where they're seeing Canadian flags on shelves to buy Canadian groceries. And nationally, the removal of U.S. alcohol and wine, which could affect it to the extent of $1 billion. Canadians are taking Trump's tariffs seriously. We are being prepared. We are going to defend our sovereignty. But we hope that this doesn't all come to pass, because this is a self-created problem that we really didn't have to deal with, John.
That's right. And President Trump said, you know, this is something that he wants to impose, but he was open to negotiation, so maybe we see that. But in the meantime, you've got Canada, and they are now looking to deepen ties, economic ties, with the European Union. Is this as a way to try to maybe distance themselves from the U.S., given that if these trade tariffs do kick in, it could be devastating for the economy?
John, Canada is the largest producer and exporter of lentils. 1.7 million tons of lentils go to 80 countries globally. Of course, we're going to talk to everybody now. As a matter of fact, Canada was talking to Mexico, because if Mexico is going to get squeezed, this is an unfortunate circumstance that we can work out with the United States. We are stronger together. We will create a much better force to combat against China and any other markets if we work together. Our auto industry is interwoven, both what's happening here in Canada and in the United States. And Canada's going to say, you want to play like that? Listen, buddy, we'll put the equipment on. We'll go. No problem. And the problem is we're going to waste our time doing that. We're going to potentially jeopardize jobs and industry. It's a wrong tact here. It's a wrong tact.
Why do you think that he still has that tariff on China? So he's delayed this with Canada and Mexico, the 25% tariff, but President Trump's still putting that tariff on China. What do you think he wants from him?
Well, it's China. Remember? China? It was the virus. It was China. It's all about China. He can't stop that. But one other question to consider, John, is this tactic that President Trump is using, is this so that he can work the trade agreement, the USMCA with Canada and Mexico earlier to try and get a little bit more? I mean, you got to say the man's a tactician. Canada jumped $13 billion in border stuff, $1.3 billion in this, 200 million in a security strike force with the United States. Canada blinked. He achieved that. Let's take that and move on. China is a completely different situation, and I think he's being smart to compartmentalize it, but I don't think we should get rolled up in that, because Canada will defend itself.
And some would argue, though, that these are working, these tariffs. President Trump is getting what he wants when he threatens these tariffs, and I mean, a lot of Americans are in favor of it.
Listen, I believe President Trump is the right president at the right time for what Americans want and what they voted for. I totally agree with that, and I understand that. I also understand the way Donald Trump negotiates. It's kind of like buying a car. John Tobacco said that a couple of weeks ago. You never have your mom go in and say, I like the car. You don't like the car because you want to go in and negotiate. That's what it's all about. I get it. But after a little while, this 51st state thing, and it's kind of getting, you don't need to use that. One other thing to remember, though, is Donald Trump does not like Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau is a wounded beaver. He's no prime minister. He's going to lose his position. His legacy is medium, so Donald Trump is going to get him while he's down. Yeah. But there gets to be a point where the rest of the Canadian people kind of say, dude, don't futz with us. I'm telling you, we'll play even. We'll work with you. But don't futz with us. And we're getting to that point. But I hope he sees it clear. I think Donald Trump is the right person, the right president for the right time in America. But Canada isn't up to that speed yet. We're working on it, hopefully with Pierre Poilievre.
That might be the play, trying to get Poilievre in there. And maybe that's part of this whole tariff thing, is that the leader of the opposition will get elected here and Trump might have a better relationship with him. Michael Charbonne, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on. Happy Sunday. Real